Last week, I went really in depth with you guys on some stuff that drastically changed my outlook on life, my outlook on just so many different things, really. And a lot of advice from my mentor that had such a profound impact on me that I wanted to share with you. And so today's lesson, in motivation, I guess I would say, because, you know, you can turn mistakes into lessons. Today's lesson is very, very simple. Learn to be okay. And what does that basically mean? We've been talking about how to pass on and pass on generational wealth and prosperity and happiness and health and success and all the attributes that contribute to those things, as well as breaking generational curses so we can all eventually become the adults we needed as children. And we've talked about how if this was easy, everybody would do it. And we've talked about F the victim Olympics, I'm not a victim. We've talked so much about so many different things in this process. You know, it's not an easy process. If it was easy, everybody would do it. We've talked about, you know, not everybody's meant to go on this journey with you, and that's okay. We've talked about so many different things that are involved in this process, and that's why I thought today was so important to talk about learning to be okay. Learn to be okay with not being invited. Learn to be okay with not being understood. Learn to be okay with not being liked. And learn to be okay with not being respected. And learn to be okay with not being appreciated. All right? These are going to sound really, really weird, but I'm going to break it down in the simplest way I know possible. And I do believe that these are things that are worth understanding and worth knowing and worth practicing consistently. Because after all, consistency will take you places that motivation alone cannot. We say that almost every week, and every single week I mean it. So let's all be the adults we needed as children and learn to be okay with A, not being invited. All right, if you got a late invitation or you didn't get an invitation at all, that means you weren't wanted there. So be okay with that. It's not the right place for you. You don't belong there. All right, learn to be okay with not being understood. If someone is going out of their way to misunderstand you or ignore you or any other facet therein, that means their minds were already made up and they're not for you. That's okay. Learn to be okay with it. Those people are not for you. Learn to be okay with not being liked. All right, this is a hard one for a lot of people, myself included, but here's the thing, right? There are billions of people in the world. So odds are, chances are, statistically speaking, there are bound to be a few people that don't like you. That's okay. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And as I say, that's okay. If I'm not your cup of tea, that's perfectly fine. Because I'm a Glengooley Blue, I'm a Scotch. That ain't for everybody. And that's okay. I genuinely think that. Learn to be okay with not being respected. Listen, this sounds really weird, but I am going to break this down because after all, that's what we do, right? Learn to be okay with not being respected. If people are outright disrespecting you and you're sticking around and you're showing up there, how can you expect other people to respect you if you don't even respect yourself? It's as simple as that. If you are constantly being disrespected and you take it and you take it and you take it and you just continue to allow your boundaries to be violated and to be trespassed on and all this other stuff, how can you expect other people to respect you if you don't respect yourself first? It's the same thing with how can you expect to love anybody else if you can't love yourself first? It's the same thing. And last but not least, learn to be okay with not being appreciated. Some people are not going to see your value. That doesn't mean you are any less valuable, okay? A sunflower does not grow in the Arctic for a reason. And when that does not happen, do we blame the sunflower? Or do we go, oh, well, it wasn't the right environment. It wasn't the right kind of circumstances. Obviously, it was the environment. It was not the right kind of circumstances. So learn to appreciate yourself. Learn to appreciate your own company. Learn to appreciate your own value. Learn to appreciate and love you. Learn to appreciate, love, and respect you. Learn to appreciate, love, and respect and understand you. And learn to invite yourself to things that you want to do. Because after all, you can't do epic shizit with basic people. Not everybody is meant to go on this journey with you, and not everybody is going to understand that, or like it, or respect it, or appreciate it, and that's okay. The only person that has to appreciate it, respect it, love it, understand it, and invite it in is you. All right, there are 3 places that you can go for free where you don't got to worry about not being invited, not being understood, not being liked, not being respected, and not being appreciated. You want to know what those 3 places are? In your own lane, away from wherever they are, and minding your own business, focusing on what you've got to do. Those are the 3 places you don't have to deal with any of that shit. So learn to be okay. Learn to be okay with not being invited. Learn to be okay with not being understood. Learn to be okay with not being liked, not being respected, and not being appreciated. At the end of the day, you have to appreciate you. You have to appreciate the struggles that you've had, the silent battles, the things that you have overcome. You have to learn to respect you before anybody else will, okay? You have to learn to respect your boundaries, your values, your moral compass, and your integrity. And to honestly and truthfully, to respect the little kid that you used to be who gave up their childhood so you could grow up. You gotta respect that kid before you can respect yourself and before anybody else can respect you. And that takes a lot of hard work and dedication. You have to learn how to like yourself in good times and in bad before anybody else can be bothered to like you. If you're going to worry about being misunderstood, then you are never going to accomplish anything, okay? Because people love to misunderstand, to create drama. Let's be honest, you could probably cure cancer and there's still going to be people that are going to hate you. Do you know how many lives you would save by curing cancer? And yet people would still hate you. That puts it into perspective. Like, other people's hate is really none of your business. And last but not least, not being invited. Be okay with it, because some places were never meant for you to thrive in or be around to begin with. Not every environment is created equal, and just because other people aspire to a certain environment does not mean that you have to. All right? Sometimes you have to prioritize yourself instead of what other people want from you. So learn to be okay. All right, everyone, this has been the latest episode of the Talks with Taylor Hendricks podcast, coming to